All right, it's our final segment this morning. Nick Barris with News Channel 5 legal analyst Nick Leonardo talking about some of these high-profile legal cases. If you want to message us on Facebook, I can try to hit your question up as you hit us at newschannel5.com. We've got Katie waited through the break, and let's talk to her. Katie, good morning.
Good morning. I'm enjoying your program. Thank you for having it on television.
Sure.
My question is, or my thoughts are on the Vanderbilt nurse. How much impact do you think that the Medicare department and the Joint Commission will have on the policies and procedures that Vanderbilt has in place to protect such a medical error, and it just assists in that? Do you think that they're going to have an impact for the defense for the nurse with that? I know it's part of her problem as far as the situation from what I've read, but also there are certain adherence to Joint Commission guidelines and also the Medicare ACA that you have to follow. So don't you think that everybody could be at fault here with this situation?
Yeah, well, I mean, the details of it are kind of interesting. I mean, she had to go because she needed to get the med through a portal that you had to be able to access a certain way. And there are checks and balances, but nurses and staff are supposed to have access in certain circumstances to do that.
Correct.
But yeah, I mean, the big picture on her defense might be, all right, wait a second, is this all on her? Or were there other checks and balances that should have been in place that could have prevented this? That it's not all on her. It led to just what was a horrible mistake and not a crime.
Well, everything that Katie was talking about, I think we're going to see in a civil lawsuit. I mean, I think that when you're talking about, did she deviate from a standard of care? Was she negligent or anything of that nature? I think obviously that's going to be part of the civil case. But
to my knowledge, no civil lawsuit has been filed by the family.
Well, there's pockets all over that. So
okay,
I mean,
I just don't know.
I would think that that would be coming down the pike. But I believe she's charged with reckless homicide, or is it criminally negligent? It's one of the lesser degrees. She'd be entitled to probation if she was convicted. But again, all the jury's got to look at is, was her conduct in this case, was it reckless? And there's a definition, and it's a long definition, and it encompasses a whole lot. But reckless is kind of close to a mistake. Well,
mistakes happen in hospitals, sadly, everywhere.
That's right.
Every single day, and they're not criminal.
She didn't have to intend to kill this person. That's not the state's theory that she tried to do this.
Yeah, and so very rarely do you see charges being filed for mistakes, sometimes which cost people lives in hospitals, and there's civil lawsuits to compensate them and all of this. But I mean, what is it that pushes it to a criminal level, do you think?
Who the victim is, potentially. I mean, obviously we all know that different people have different accesses to justice. I mean, if a Metro Public Works trash truck, backs over my daughter getting the trash, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's a crime, and more than likely it would probably just be a civil suit and an I'm sorry. So,
well, and what I've heard, his family is very, very gracious. What you heard them say initially is that this woman who died is not the vindictive type, and she was forgiving. And I don't know, in terms of a civil lawsuit, it may come, but I don't get the sense that they're out here bloodthirsty going after the nurse. I don't want to put words into their mouth, but I haven't seen that. I get this is the case of, hey, it was looked into, and based on what was presented to Glenn Funk, he decided it was criminal. I don't think someone was saying, hey, General, you got to bring charges. I don't see someone was pushing that. I just see that it was investigated, and whatever he got based on what actually happened in the hospital, for some reason in his mind, came to the level of criminal. And we don't know what that evidence is in whole at this point.
Well, that's how I was able to take the same set of facts from a reckless homicide to a simple assault, was because the decedent's family didn't want to prosecute.
On the case that you had handled in the past.
And they were going to come into court and say, hey, we love this person. This person was great to our family member, and this was a complete accident, and we're not pushing this kind of thing.
Yeah.
And that's hard to get a conviction when you've got the victim's family and they're saying such a thing.
Now, I don't know that's the same way in this case, but I'm just curious what it is that made him think that this mistake was more than that, it was criminal. And
we'll see how it comes out.
We certainly will, yeah. Let's go to Tommy. Good morning, Tommy.
Yes, good morning, Nick.
Hi.
How y'all doing this morning?
All right.
What's on your mind?
Well, I got hacked on my telephone through the medical program, and they got my Social Security number and stuff. Well, the other day I got a back brace from these people, and they charged my Medicare $100 or $1,380 something for it, and it's fraud.
Oh boy. Yeah.
And Yeah, like I say, it's a headache, and it's American Bracing Solution that's doing this.
Well, I mean,
were you charged with a crime?
No, I'm charged with the brakes that I don't receive, and see, they're doing fraud.
Well, I don't know. Yeah, look, I can't speak to that except when someone, and boy, I did a story this morning on some cases. These telemarketers, some of them that are fraudulent, get hold of your social security number. I don't know what to tell you other than it's out there, and unfortunately when this happens, if someone gets hold of your stuff online, it's gone. You're done. They're not going to catch these folks. You just have to be real careful with that stuff.
Well, I think the federal government needs to do more. I mean, quite frankly, the FBI, the Secret Service, I know they're busy, they're overworked, they're understaffed, but I mean, there's a lot of that goes on, and it really is wreaking havoc in America and all over the world, quite frankly.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, listen, again, I'm sorry for what you've gone through, and yeah, I don't know about what kind of fraud was happening there, if any, but yeah, once someone gets hold of it, it's identity theft, and you get billing on stuff like this, it's not good. All right, so I'm just trying to think of one other case. Someone was bringing up the horrible case out of Kentucky, the Gabby Doolin case, another one where a child, it was going 2 years now and counting. That case is still on the books and is still slated to go to trial as well. The little Gabby Doolin was raped and murdered and found there. Her brother was playing in a football game. You may remember that case. The defendant's still locked up in that case, and that's slated for trial as well. Again, all these cases take a lot of time. And
you know, that would be difficult to get a fair and impartial jury. You know, think about that. I mean, you know, it's kind of the same facts as that we had in Holly Bobo, but in this case, this is a child. This is what, 7-8-year-old child. I mean, that's a horrific set of facts, and I think it's going to be difficult to get a jury in that area that comes in there with an open mind. I think when they hear those kinds of facts, I think people kind of jump to conclusions based on appearance and what the scuttlebutt is, you know, in those communities.
Oh, sure, and what they hear, and we saw that to some degree in the Bobo case. As far as Travis Ranking in the Waffle House, I mean, he's pleaded not guilty, okay, to 17 charges related to that mass shooting at the Waffle House. Look, there's no question the dude did it. We know he did it. So what's his defense going to be? I mean, there's no debate or mystery here. I mean, there's even video of what happened, which has never been released from inside the Waffle. I mean, so there's no debating whether or not Travis Ranking went in there and did this. But he's pleading not guilty. So what does that mean? Where are they going with that?
Well, I think you remember, I believe it was Judge Fishburne here in Nashville, actually put everything on hold to have his a mental, you know, acuity assessed.
And he was deemed
to be competent,
deemed fit
after a while. But I think that was initially going to be some of the concern is I can't represent a client and do actions or take action based upon what that client asked me to do if that person doesn't understand what we're talking about. And so obviously they want to make sure before his case proceeds that that you know he's competent to stand trial, which is a very low threshold. But I know there was a lot of, I'm sure the victims' families were extremely disappointed when Judge Fishburne made the correct decision to have him evaluated.
That protects you against appeal later.
That's exactly
they can't come back and say that he was.
That's exactly
You've
right.
got that on the record now. You move forward. But the fact that he's got evidence that's overwhelming that he did it. So I guess they just say not guilty at this point, but then they're going to work out whatever kind of deal.
Well, there's no deal.
If he goes to trial, he's done. All right, he has no chance. So what?
I mean, I think the only deal that you could, if you're the prosecution, I mean, you would want 2 life sentences, you know, running consecutive, so that if one of them got overturned, the other one would still hold the person in jail.
So you're saying if you're the defendant in this case, if that's what you're looking at anyway, and you know, we've already heard that General Funk is not seeking the death penalty against Emmanuel Sampson in the Antioch Church shooting. I don't know about in the Ranking case, but if that's the case, if you're Ranking, you just say, well, I'll take my chances at trial.
Well, he's got a good lawyer. You know, he's got I believe John Wing with the Public Defender's Office, and he's a great lawyer. He's been doing it a really long time. But again, I mean, it's on tape, right? I mean, there's just not a whole lot of defense that you have. There's no provocation. There's no nullification. No one's ever going to feel like, oh gosh, I've been there. I understand why you took those actions. I mean, it's again, you know, he has constitutional rights just like everybody else that does a mass murder, and they just want to make sure that those rights are complied with as they go through the process. But I would not look to see that to go to trial.
Probably not.
But it's up to the defendant, you know.
Yeah, they'd work something out. Is it possible, even though he's been deemed competent to stand trial, they could still, at trial, you know, use a competency defense, maybe? If not insanity, something short of that, they could still use that at trial.
So we've seen that with, you know, you've got the insanity, which is the holy grail if I didn't know what I was doing was wrong. But then we also have this thing called diminished capacity, okay? And they may give you a lesser charge, but it doesn't fully negate your entire behavior. So if this is the intentional premeditated killing, if you can somehow say you didn't have the ability to form premeditation, then maybe it was go down to another one. But anyway you cut it, Mr. Ranking is not getting out of jail.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, I think you're probably right. That one, I'd be surprised if that went to trial. I'd be surprised if Emmanuel Sampson in the church shooting goes to trial.
That's a little more interesting to me. It seems like there's something else going on. I mean, there's a lot of facts we don't know about in that Sampson case, but I've paid a little closer attention to that because I believe there's some interesting facts that are going to come out from that I don't think the media is privy to or anyone knows.
Maybe. I mean, again, in that case, there's little doubt. He was there. He's more or less admitted it when they picked him up. He's represented, by the way, by Jennifer Thompson, the same one who represented Zach Adams in the Bobo case.
But if you remember the young woman in Selmer, Tennessee, who shot her husband, right? And she got a much lesser charge after the jury heard what she had been through. So who knows what the facts are going to necessarily show, but I do believe that there's something factually going on there that, and obviously the media has not been privy to, that may make that one more of a case you would take to trial versus the Waffle House shooter.
Okay, well, there's that one, and then I think also there's probably a really good chance that Ranking, as you said, and the Hambrick case will go to trial, because I don't see either side on that agreeing to some type of plea. I don't see Hambrick's family saying, oh, let's give him a deal. And I think Ranking will want to take his chances, if nothing else, with a jury trial.
Well, it's important to point out, too, that it's not up to Hambrick's family or the victim's family. They have, Tennessee has the Victims' Rights Amendment, and the District Attorney's Office has to apprise the victims of a case every step of the way. And a lot of times, the state will say, look, you know, I understand that you want this, but this is what I think I can get as far as a conviction, so I'm going to make this offer, but I'm just wanting to talk to you and explain to you why I feel like, as the prosecutor, this is the offer I'm going to make. But again, I don't see Mr. Delkey, I don't see there being an offer that's going to put him on probation or a manslaughter offer necessarily.
Well, we'll be watching for when that gets set. And if it does, we'll be doing gavel to gavel. Nick, it's good to see you. We'll have you on again. It was good to cover a lot of ground on this, and we'll do it again. I appreciate everyone joining us on Facebook as well as on the Plus. We'll see you soon, my friend.
All right.
Take a break. I'll be back with a programming note right after this.